Welcome back to George Orwell's 1984. We are beginning part 2 of the book today. Chapter 1, part 2. To avoid any confusion, we're back to chapter 1 because we're into section 2 of the book. And interesting what we read yesterday, one of the longer chapters. And it's interesting because this is a section of the book that really hasn't been featured in any of the filmed versions of the novel. There's 2 big budget movies were made, one in the 50s and one in the 80s. It was actually made in 1984, and they, to try to get some publicity off of the fact that the year was actually 1984 and how close were things. Well, at that time, not as close as they are today. But there's the incident in the chapter that we read yesterday. It's quite interesting because Winston confronts someone he says is in his 80s. He guesses he's in his 80s. And he's old enough to remember the times before the revolution. And he has a lot of questions for him. So he goes into a pub, which is not a place that the party members that Winston is supposed to really be. It's not exactly illegal, but it's certainly frowned upon, and it could lead to trouble. So it's that twilight zone of a police state where you're not quite sure if you're on the right side or the wrong side of the law, because the law is flexible. The law can be very changeable. But Winston feels he can go in there with the proles, as they're called, and this is short form for proletariat. Now, these are basically the subclass that we see very much in evidence today in North America, a subclass that is drug addicted, homeless, crime-ridden, and basically without any hope. And there certainly is a subclass in North America today and in Europe. So Winston goes and he asks this man a bunch of questions about the past before the revolution. And he finds out the man can remember bold incidents or obtruded events. He can remember a conflict at a wedding. He can remember top hats. He can remember various imagery from this time, this age before the revolution. But he really can't tell Winston much about what life was like, what the economics was like, what the lifestyle was like. Were people better off? And Winston is endlessly frustrated by this conversation, which he really sees as going nowhere, not answering any of his questions. So he's frustrated. And he ends up going back to the antique shop where he buys the diary. So we've gone through this, and it's the end of part 1, and we're getting into part 2, which is some of the more frightening parts of the book. And it brings home how we can believe what we want to believe. And unfortunately, that kind of denial can lead to catastrophic results, as they do for Winston eventually. And I won't go further. But of course, you can see the foreshadowing throughout the book that Winston is certainly going in a direction that is going to have consequences. Now, I'm not going to tell you what those consequences are. You probably know. Right? Everybody has read or has seen the movie. And you know where this is going. So I'm going to shut up for now. We're going to get on with the book. And I hope you're enjoying this once again. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And thank you for being a part of this podcast. And thank you for your support along the way. It has been much appreciated. So here we go. Hi, this is David Krayden from Krayden's Right and Stand on Guard. Join the resistance. Resolve to resist. Become a member of this station. I've been practicing journalism in one form or another for over 30 years. I've worked in print, radio, and television, for a lot of prestigious publications and media outlets. I was an armed forces public affairs officer. I worked in Parliament Hill. I know how Ottawa works, and I know how corrupt federal government can be. But you can play a part in opposing Justin Trudeau's government and Justin Trudeau's plans for Canada. You can become a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right Resistance. Now, I urge you today, please support this station in any way you can. Ring that bell, subscribe, because that ensures you're at least going to continue to be able to watch these episodes. You'll beat the algorithm. But more importantly, I need your financial support. I hate to ask, but that's what I'm doing. I made a decision to pursue independent media because I believed it was the best possible route for me to take as a journalist and as a concerned citizen of Canada. So you can become a part of that. And at only $5, you can become a part of that on YouTube, on Substack, and with Buy Me a Coffee, a one-time donation. But I need your support. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. If you've already done that, if you're already supporting the station, thank you. But if you haven't, make that decision today. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.